Yeah, so you guys, we are back again, and what we are talking about.
Period. Like literally, it's
Yeah, we're talking about periods, menstrual health, menstrual hygiene day.
Uh-huh.
What's the theme for this year again?
Making menstruation a normal factor of life.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think we're far from that? Where are we as of now?
I think we should first ask each other, what comes to your mind when you say your period? I feel like I get social anxiety every time my period comes up into conversation. Because I'm like, yo, the pain. Everyone who's going to see me is like, I'm trying to look back, when you're walking.
The anxiety, that comes with
like it's just a lot of emotional things going on and physical.
And the fact that you mentioned that, I'm so scared that I hope I did not miss myself. It's the terminology that comes with menstruation.
Tayo says cutting. Yo,
I hate the way I hate that word. It says guys.
What's the stain? I've actually tend to associate the word stain to actually period stain.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody says also stain, I already think, wait, am I on period? But but what does menstrual hygiene day mean to us? I mean, the 28th of May was menstrual hygiene day. I wonder what it means to us as girls and young women. And
I think menstrual health in general is how we deal with our anatomy and our bodies. So that's our reproduction system and how it functions. And of course, because of that, there's menstruation. But then the thing is, in our society, menstruation is a taboo. The time you even mention menstruation in front of people, it's like, So like for me, I think menstrual hygiene and menstrual health day is just really a commemoration to try and say, you know what, world, women just do menstruate, get used to it.
It's as good as so we need to understand that each and every day someone out there is menstruating, and if we're making it a normal factor of life, we're not saying that we just have to be informed about it, but we're saying it should be a conversation that we're all comfortable with talking about.
Why should we be shy to say menstruation or period? I still remember this time when I was like in high school, and we had that girl conversation about menstruation and everything, and I remember my teacher literally, she was the biology teacher, number one. She goes and she shuts the door like this and she locks.
She would have shut the windows as well if she could.
She's like, we don't want any boys here, we don't want them to know.
I
still remember thinking like, man, is my period such a bad thing? It's a lot, man.
I really think we still need to to work on mainstreaming issues to do with menstruation and menstrual health and hygiene, even in our families as well. I shouldn't panic if my brother walks in while I'm talking about it with my little sister, things like that. So I really think making menstruation a normal fact of life, it means we are demystifying all the myths around it. Most of them very, very untrue and undignifying. I also think it means the stigma around menstruation. I really, especially in our in our communities, it's not an easy thing to talk about. Secret, even if I'm even thinking with right now we are moving to reusable sanitary pads. But they are pairs, and we all should know how the process goes so that we can support each other, I think, as people.
When you're talking about a community, I've come to think of the words that the community itself have associated with menstruation. They run away from the word menstruation, they run away from the word period, but they just come up with those words that make menstruation sound as if it's something that's so disgusting, something that you have to be so ashamed of. But it's something, an interesting fact is the reason why we're here today is because our parents skipped their period. It's something that they're not noticing, something that they're not realizing, So I feel like the best way we should have those conversations, instead of ukuthi siyecela ukuya eklasini ukuthi siyekhuluma ngama periods, charity begins at home. Let's start at home. If you're a parent, you need to talk to your children. You need to be comfortable telling your boy child ukuthi this is your sister, she goes on her periods, you know, and asoma pampa ngama pads, you know, and girls need to be comfortable ukuthenga ama pads. Lokho uhamba le paper bag black emaphos, no way.
It's really uncool.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is that you guys talk about the significance in our communities and in our homes. And I think those are foundational. And I think the effect of lacking that much education to either females and the boy child itself is very relevant when you get into different institutions when you grow up. For example, when you get to school, it's like a matter of make sure that the boys don't know that you're on your period. If you're having period cramps, if a boy asks, no, I just have a stomachache. I have a headache. I have this. Why are we not comfortable about talking about these things? It's something that happens to every woman. And if you live in a globe where 52% is women, and you want to live in a vacuum and say that menstruation doesn't happen, or we won't tell people that we menstruate, I think you're fooling yourself. And I think also it's a matter of adding it into the curriculum. I think we need to start teaching everyone about menstruation, even ourselves. True. I realize that there's a lot we don't know about our own menstrual health.
It's like the more you learn, the more you realize, no, guys, I'm quite I was just talking to my friend the other day, just telling her, like, you know what, I was 2 years old when I found out which a pack of pads ilama night and day. I would just freestyle. I didn't know they come in different sizes because night floor is usually things like that. So we need to talk about these things, and I think relay the correct information as well. Health issues.
When you talk about pads, one thing I learned when we had a conversation on this other webinar was that we actually don't know the durability of pads. So of course on the label it's going to tell you 8 hours, but the problem with that is that sometimes a brand is just trying to sell its packet. And you find so many cases where women will tell you I spend the whole day with the same pad or whatsoever, and there's now issues like cervical cancer. And if you actually find research, it's not that cervical cancer is hereditary or anything like that, all those other problems. It's actually the practices that we have moved on in our generations to say you can spend the whole day with the same pad, and it has like a green color, it gets discolored and everything. All that bacteria is piling up, and imagine if you keep on doing that for 10 years, there's no way you're not going to get cancer.
Exactly.
And I think the other problem comes with the precautions that were given. You know, when you're a girl and you stain, the only thing that your parents will tell you is stay away from boys. Number one. Number two, you have to bath. But then the question is, if you're saying I should stay away from boys, are you saying the moment I see a boy I should run away? Are you saying
that even me?
Are you saying I should bath? When you're saying I should bath, what exactly do you mean? Because the last time I checked, every day in the morning before I go to school I bath. Before I sleep I bath.
Information.
It's not.
I don't think it's not. Like for whole menstrual health, guys, this is psychological, physical, mental, and then you just tell me to get a pet where it stay away from boys and bath.
She's bringing up the issue of how we are taught with as often as possible when you're on your period. But then I'm thinking, sometimes do we even have the facilities for that? Because when we're talking of menstrual hygiene, good hygienic practices, we are saying a young girl or a young menstruating woman, she should have access to a clean toilet that is running water, soap, pads to change, and is that always readily available? Sometimes it's really not. That's why sometimes you're forced to go a whole day, because I realize sometimes you go into your bathroom, public or whatever, I will have been now I'm forced to keep it in my handbag. Now I'm supposed to hold my handbag like this way, because what if it slips out? It's so uncomfortable at times.
And I think what's interesting about mentioning things like are pads even available, guys, period poverty is actually a very serious thing in our country. It's very real to think that there's girls that use cow dung on their period. There's girls that have to use tissue, newspaper, old clothes, leaves, and things like that. Like, should we get to that point in general when you know that this is something we can't stop? It's like menstruation is like a normal process in life. Like when you breathe, you know that you have to breathe. When you're not breathing, you're dead. Just like when it comes to your menstruation, like it's a matter of you will just menstruate, whether it's on time or it's not on time, or it's different times, or it's not really organized in the duration and everything. But the thing is, you are going to menstruate. It's a normal fact of life. Eventually, are there facilities and things and resources to actually help young women within that time? And I think we should invest in that. It should be priority. Like, I'm not saying that maybe we have pads always free and everything, but if push comes to shove, you should never have to use cow dung or use tissue. There should always be a center, a club, a place where you're going to get where you can access them.
And I'm just thinking, normally I feel like we really overlook this issue of menstrual health products like pads. Some people even opt for using cow dung izinto ezinjalo. I think it's because when you're talking about these products, thina sicabanga ukuthi I just need something that's going to absorb my the fluid. I need something that's going to catch the fluid. But what are the health implications that come, for example, with using cow dung leaves? You risk a lot of infections, and over time it becomes very unhealthy and risky. So we need to look at that.
It's not just the products that we use when we're on our periods. I think also the food that we eat, the food that we eat impacts if we're going to have a healthy normal cycle. Because you'll find that when you're on your periods, you have other cravings. Sometimes the things that we crave for, I feel like sometimes the body will be communicating you need this kind of diet in order to sustain your period, because sometimes a period pain, it might be caused by the food that we eat or the exercise, all those things. And people need to stay hydrated when they're on their period. People need to always get fruits, those things that will clean your systems, things that will keep your immune system always healthy at all times.
And I like how we highlight all these problems associated with hygiene when it or menstrual health in general. But then I think one of the biggest problems we have is focused within that theme, making it a normal factor of life. We'll never get to a point where our systems, our governments, our policymakers really focus on creating that environment for all women and girls, because the biggest problem is they feel like it's a taboo. No one is going to get into parliament and say, honestly, girls are suffering from their periods. We should have a budget for pills and pads and whatnot. So when you make it a normal fact of life, everyone is just considerate and conscious to the idea of that, she's going to need pads. She's going to need pills. How do we work towards that?
When you mentioned parliament, you just reminded me of this this video story that trended where this an MP or minister lady, she was in those meetings, and she stained her skirt and stuff, and she was called out for that. And if I'm not mistaken, she was even asked to leave by another lady, and she started speaking out on that. So imagine if other women were actually in power, decision-making positions, are not yet willing to make menstruation a normal fact of life. Because I really think it was wrong calling her out like that. Because it's a normal fact of life, She shouldn't be called out as if it's she's done a crime or anything of that sort. So perhaps the leaders that we choose, if we can choose, even when we get those positions, we should really be able to advocate for mainstreaming these issues.
And that's so true. People who are in decision-making positions, such as our guardians, policymakers, teachers, they should really take the responsibility of teaching us, educating us as a collective to be mindful of menstruation, to understand. Because if we have those conversations regularly, it would mean that everyone is conscious of menstruation.
Yeah,
Everyone knows
Exactly.
what it is.
Yeah.
So when someone stains, we're not going to look at her and be like, how stainile. We're not going to be surprised. We'll just say, oh, stainile. It doesn't have to be something where we all marvel.
Yeah.
It's
"Uguti,
now
what's
a
going on?"
headline.
You
The
know?
minister of so and so stained her dress. Come on, guys.
You know,
Like, yeah. But I think that's a nice thing. I think we all talk about generally the environment, people and everything. I think it's also just important to get comfortable as girls.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you don't have to hide that you're on your period. It's not humiliating. I think there's a lot of stigma associated with it. So sometimes they're like, yo, no one should know that I'm on my period. Do I stink? Do I do this? I think we should get so comfortable with our period. We're like, you know what? Bro, today you're actually not really fun because honestly, I don't know if it's my period's acting up or whatever, but I just need space. I'm in pain or whatever. We should get to that point of like where we're cool with our friend and with our friends in terms of that.
Those 3 to 5 days can be the hardest
They
days of the
can.
month.
They
I personally get stressed when I know my, the first day is approaching because it's usually the most painful in terms of cramps and stuff. So you're like, I'm hoping I do not have a test on that day at school or I do not have a presentation because you just want to get your rest and really digest the pain because it can get really crazy. So we need, all the support that we can get.
Yeah, and there's this thing, Yoguti, if you're maybe, I don't know if I should say you're having mood swings as a girl, or you're just quiet and someone just asks you, my period's in, and I've noticed that. I've noticed that menstruation has been associated with bad things.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but I feel like there should be a time, for example, May 28, where we celebrate Menstrual Hygiene Day. I feel like those are the times whereby we get to appreciate the beauty of it. Because I feel like in our society, in our basic African society, when you're on your period, that's the only time when your parents say, at least she's not pregnant.
Yeah,
It's like a relief.
It's like a relief.
But I feel like we should take pride in it.
Yeah.
And not in the sense that she's not pregnant, but just it's who you are.
Yeah,
It's who you are. It's a part of you. It's a part of life.
It makes us distinct.
Yeah.
I think it makes us distinct. I think openness, not only in that, but I think openness is so important because we have different experiences, guys.
Exactly.
When you talk about your period with your friends, right, you think that
Especially
it was
the first
bad.
experiences.
Yeah, and you think yours was bad. Then you get someone else and you're like, no, you know what? I think mine is okay. There's people who tell you that I have food cravings. I still remember I had this conversation with Rudo this other day, and she said, I've got wild cravings when I'm on my period. And I remember thinking, yo, lucky girl. Me, when I'm on my period, I'm like, I don't even want to see food. When I get into the kitchen, it just smells. Like, I'm just like, man. So I think it's very important for us to be open because our experiences will definitely help us and encourage us. And I think we also can give each other tips like, what, whether it's rolling on the floor or just doing this, you're going to feel better or something like that. So I think, that's the importance of us just being open about our menstrual hygiene and our periods.
Yeah, it just came to my mind. Can't we talk about disposal of the product as well?
Oh, yeah.
Because I've seen many times you just see a pet lying around there, the dog has dragged it. I think public health wise, it's really nasty. So how can we best give each other tips on disposing our menstrual hygiene products?
Well, I think in our schools, if you go to the ladies, right, the toilets, right, you notice that there is a bucket or a place where we're supposed to put our used pads, right? And then our caretakers, they're the ones who know how to dispose those things. But then I'm thinking, if you're not at school, if the environment or does not permit you to find it, so I feel like maybe the fact that menstruation is not a normal fact of life is the reason why people are not disposing pets the right way they are supposed to.
I remember when I was in high school, they had to put the bins inside the bathrooms.
Exactly.
Because the bins were there, by the sinks, but somehow girls were not using them. But after they put them inside where it was private and all, people started using them. So the fact that I'm shy to dispose of my pads in front of other girls, I think that's a question.
That's also
Why?
That's very scary.
You see, so I think there's still some sort of stigma around menstruation.
There's a lot of stigma.
A lot of it, actually. Yeah.
Between us as women and girls, and even more when it comes to our relation with men and society in general. But I think the first thing is openness, and I'm so glad that we get to do that. And honestly, don't be shy about your period. Your period is cool, man. You can give life. Like, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, man, I can give life. So yeah, those are like the cool things about it. But yeah, I think that's it for our podcast today, man.
Yes, ma'am.
We're interesting human beings, but we could talk about periods the whole
day. Really, but this was really, really cool. This was really cool.
That's it
we
from
have,
us.
the more we have those conversations, the more we realize there's nothing embarrassing about periods. There is nothing that should make you shy about being on your periods. There is nothing embarrassing about buying pads. It should be a normal factor of life.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's it from us.
Cheers.